Hello guys and welcome! Today we are going to continue the Final Fantasy documentary by Speakers Network. And we are now at episode 4, A Hero Rises, and I'm really curious about the fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV. What I've seen so far was really crazy, like how this game started and how bad it was before A Realm Reborn came. Like the comparison, like the difference is just so huge now. Like it's crazy. Anyway, let's check this one out.
Let's get right down to it. Unless you've got the patience of Job or some kind of masochist, you shouldn't play Final Fantasy XIV.
We need a lot of patience.
Maybe in the months and years to come, Square Enix will issue enough patches to clean up the interface and iron out its technical issues. But as of right now, this is not a world worth visiting.
実はまるでない初めてのファイナルファンタジーシリーズのどっちかというとプレイヤーの方が圧倒的に
Yeah, it was his first title, surprisingly. And he did so well. Like what impresses me so much about like how Final Fantasy XIV is now and what Yoshi-P, what Naoki Yoshida did here, like he didn't have any experience with like Final Fantasy games, and he just joined and he had no clue what is this game about or anything, and he fixed it so well that this is now one of the best MMOs out there. It's crazy. Wow, he was so young.
Hello, Eorzeans! Welcome to the fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV, Episode 4. Thanks again for the amazing feedback on my previous video, it is appreciated as always. Now let's get into the episode.
I'm surprised that he gathered so much information.
The Final Fantasy XIV dev team is being restructured. While Hiromichi Tanaka is removed as producer, Nobuaki Komoto was moved over from director to lead game designer, and thus continues to serve the game.
Wow, they must be really frustrated because they got basically demoted and they're still working for the same company. Yo, how does that actually feel? Like, imagine you are like a manager and then you're being demoted to like something like assistant or so. Like, how must you feel inside? But I mean, they messed up, so yeah. But still, like, this must be a weird feeling, right? Like working for the same company, demoted. I think in Germany usually people just get kicked.
Leaving few remaining of the original dev team. Naoki Yoshida was to lead the new dev team into battle. He knew the game had issues, but once he was made aware of the technical aspects of the game,
aren't those the Imperial battleships or what?
Just looking at the crafting and gathering system shows you how complicated the problems were. Let's first look at crafting. Final Fantasy XIV was supposed to be a strong player-driven economy, and thus gear did not drop from enemies. You had to buy gear from the market wards.
What?
And the gear was to be crafted by the game's
That's terrible.
crafters.
I'm glad that now we get it from enemies.
By gatherers. Too bad then that the crafting system was more complicated than a Rubik's Cube. Any 2.x, 3.x crafters watching right now, grab a Prozac.
If you do, please leave a comment in the comment section.
In order to start crafting, you had to first equip a crafting main hand tool. Once this was done, you became the class associated with that tool. A menu item now pops up in the main menu called...
Is it the same now?
Wait for a few seconds while the action loads.
Oh, it's that slow?
Okay. This tiny menu in the upper left appears. The top section shows the materials you wish to use, and the lower section is where you select whether you wish to use your main hand or offhand for crafting. There was no recipe list in 1.0, so you'd have to know beforehand what materials you needed for the item you were going to make. So you place the required item.
Okay, this looks crazy complex and probably very time consuming for crafting, because you have to like manually look for this and that, go through oh my gosh. That must be like stressful. And yeah, by the way guys, if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content, and I'm glad they simplified it now. It's way simpler.
In the slots, and then select the tool you wish to use for the synthesis. A recipe confirmation window shows up, click confirm, and away we go. The first thing you'll notice is this rapidly decreasing timer counting down. You have to choose an action before the timer reaches 0 to progress. Failure to do so will lead to a botched synthesis. There is also a progress bar, a durability rating, and a quality rating. Once your progress bar reached 100%, you were given the option to either finish the synthesis or touch up to increase quality.
Touch up. Or you can touch. I would always do that then, but it's...
and the way you synthesized the item. Touching up would further increase the quality as long as you had remaining durability.
Wow.
It was not a bad system, just a bit tedious.
Yeah, and time consuming.
Describe most aspects of 1.0. The problem with this system was that it had incredibly long animations and was extremely prone to server latency.
And it looked laggy.
Remember that timer there? Well,
yeah, but everything looks laggy right now. Even the character movements.
You could very well have time left on the timer, but the delay between your input and the server response could often lead to a botched synthesis. But this is not even the worst part. The worst part is the actual recipe system, and the lack of a recipe book.
What about it?
You had to know what items you needed from...
Wait, there's no recipe book?
By writing it down in the journal they included in the collector's edition.
Are you kidding me? So you as a player have to take a freaking book or piece of paper and write down recipes? Yo, that must be so annoying. Like, imagine you're playing... I'm using it on my phone as an example, okay? Imagine this was a freaking small book with like a notebook, diary or something. Okay, what do I need? Yeah, I need a bone, I need a crab leg, I need what, flesh, I need this. Like, imagine you have to do that. Like, that is so annoying. Who came up with those ideas? Like, what did they do in the office when they were like developing this, like the first version of the game? Like, don't people like sit together and give like some feedback or input before they actually develop this? Like, what were they thinking? Like, everyone agreed on that or what? Or was it just like one guy deciding, hey, let's do this? I thought there was like some democracy as well in like development studios, right?
To craft items, you had to craft a lot, and I mean a lot of items. Take a square maple shield, for example. A basic...
Yo, that's so laggy for some reason.
Well, to make that lovely item, you'd first need to make a maple plank from a maple log. Then make 30 bronze nuggets from tin ore and 3 copper ore. Please keep in mind that there is no quick synthesis in the game. You had to go through the same set of menus for every item. Then, from all these nuggets, you'd have to make bronze rivets, bronze nails, and a bronze ingot.
Oh no,
ingot,
that would take eternity to craft then.
Then take some willow chips and sheepskin to make sheep leather.
Oh no.
Then take leather
excuse me,
and make sheep leather strap. Now place all the items you have created in the crafting menu.
Oh no.
The sheep leather strap, the bronze plate, the bronze nails.
I would have hated crafting then.
And the maple planks. And start synthesizing. And voila! You've got yourself a maple shield. Okay. I'm not gonna
this reminds me a tiny bit of Minecraft right now.
More than enough. Time for the gathering system. Okay, there isn't much to say about it, other than it being incredibly convoluted and RNG based. If you've played the mining and botany minigame in the gold saucer, you've basically tried it. Let's take botany as an example.
That's funny, I actually have a friend that's called Damian, just not the Y but the I.
You get this vertical bar with a slider you can move up and down. This decided what portion of the tree you wanted to gather from. Please, take a gander at how slow the server responds to this.
Oh, wow.
The next step was the actual chop.
Is it even happening? I see nothing happen yet.
This is how you did it. At the second step, you click chop. A
chop,
marker
chop,
appears
chop.
on this thing, and it starts moving up and down.
Wait.
You could not control this motion, by the way, and from the clues given to you in the little window and chat...
So it's a random time to cut down or...
from that mark you've started chopping from. If you're lucky, you hit some good stuff. You also had a limited number of...
So it's RNG how fast you cut it.
This bar. You never really knew what you'd be getting.
So it's all RNG.
You had to prepare to spend a lot of time for this.
Oh no.
And getting anything in high quality was also left to chance.
Oh no.
So gathering certain items was a living nightmare. And good luck hitting your target.
So it could be like you go to a tree, it takes you like 15 seconds, another person takes like up to a minute because of this thingy here, and they just click wrong or they click too slow, too fast. Yo, that sucks. That must be annoying. Yeah, like I said, who comes up with such ideas? Like, didn't they say something in like the studio, like, hey, guys, you can't release this or something like that? Like, nobody gave some feedback. They worked in a team, right? So everyone was like agreeing on that?
The input lag made this so hard.
That's so weird.
Few players actually bothered doing this.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother at all, to be honest.
There was fishing. I'm just
fishing wasn't bad though, right?
Of fishing in action. I don't think any words can explain this better than this video. Yeah.
I mean, fishing is still slow, but
this right here, this was 1.0 fishing. Naoki Yoshida's mission was clear. Make Final Fantasy XIV playable and make it the game it deserves to be.
That must have been one of the toughest jobs for someone.
The item search feature, allowing you to actually search the market wards for the items you needed. In addition to this, the wards were renamed to more easily reflect what they contained, making purchasing items a slightly easier task. Another thing that was added early was Rowena, and her elegant runestone system. These stones dropped from faction leave quests and could be exchanged for gear. Finally, an alternate way of obtaining this. The 3 different types of treasure chests were also introduced, the bronze, silver and gold chest. Yoshida's team's first major patch was patch 1.15a, which saw the introduction of 99 stacks for crafter items and the options to hide headgear. Massive quality of life changes such as mouse scroll speed adjustments being added to settings, minimap reflecting passive or active mode, and finally graphical adjustments to cope with the frame rate drops. Yoshida also decided that it was about time the game got an official forum, where the dev team could
finally forum is back.
Feedback directly from the players.
Because it was removed.
The Final Fantasy XIV official forums were born.
Yay!
The next major update, patch 1.16, finally introduced proper side quests, and crafters rejoiced as the option to continue crafting the same item immediately after crafting an item was added. Enemies were adjusted in size, as well as getting icons reflecting.
Wait. So the enemies, they were like smaller or bigger? Wait. Let's get back there.
Enemies were adjusted in size.
Wait, what's before? What's after? Ah, okay. No, you know what? Because I'm on my Lalafell. I think this thingy is taller than me actually. So right is the new version, and left is the old one. Okay, I'm glad they made those taller. Looks more cool. Because I don't want to fight like tiny monsters. It doesn't look so spectacular if you take them down.
Size, as well as getting icons reflecting whether they are hostile or not.
Oh, nice.
While Yoshi-P and his team is working on fixing the game, there is a desperate battle being fought internally in Square Enix.
About what?
The company is bleeding financially, and it becomes clear that Hiromichi Tanaka is not the only one to blame for Final Fantasy XIV's poor status.
But
Square Enix themselves are to blame for pushing the 1.0 dev team to release Final Fantasy XIV before it was ready. CEO of Square Enix, Yoichi Wada, tries to calm their investors, but he needs a miracle in order to turn this around. Square Enix is literally pouring money into an endless sink. Final Fantasy XIV is having a massive impact on Square Enix's finances, and if the game doesn't turn around soon, they might be in serious trouble. Meanwhile, patch 1.17 rolls out on April 14th, 2011, introducing a new maximum party size. In 1.0, you could form a party with up to 15 other players. This was reduced in 1.17 to the setup that is still present in the current incarnation of Final Fantasy XIV, 8 players. This patch in particular patched a lot of the major issues with the game and made it more stable. It was around this time, however, that the dev team came to the horrendous conclusion that the game was so fundamentally flawed, it could never be fully repaired. The service...
Yo, 1 second, they also made the spells look better, right? This was like, X have been enlarged by a factor between... Oh yeah, that looks so much better. So that's like, yeah, that's more cool. Like imagine playing like a black mage, and your explosions are as big as your character only. Like that would be so weird, right?
It could never be fully repaired.
I mean, then again, in WoW, in World of Warcraft, it's a bit like that.
The programming, it was all broken.
Because in WoW, you don't have big animations.
In addition to this, the world design was sloppy and full of glitches that were hard to locate and fix. Even if they made the game playable, they would never be able to expand the game, as the game's engine was already pushed way beyond its limits, not to mention, optimizing this game for the PS3 seemed impossible.
Oh shit.
They had to make a decision, fast. Could they really
new engine came.
Final Fantasy title? Doing so would leave a hole in the Final Fantasy timeline, a game that was so bad it had to be shut down in less than a year. It would enrage the fans and permanently damage the Final Fantasy brand. But Yoshida and his crew had a different idea. One so wild, it had never been done on such a scale in an MMO before. They wanted to rebuild the game from scratch while the original game was still running and getting patched. They then wanted the 1.x game to end entirely, being replaced by 2.0.
Wow.
It's not easy to convince Square Enix to accept the idea.
It's like 2 games at a time
more or less
that you're developing.
If they didn't do anything, they might lose the entire...
Yo, that was a nice change. So they used to look like this. And now they look like this. Well, that's way better. This fits more Limsa Lominsa, seriously.
Franchise. In June of 2011, patch 1.18 was released, and adjustment to the main scenario was finally made. Level caps for the story quests were lowered to make the quests easier to obtain and giving less dead time between the quests. And finally, the Grand Companies opened their doors for civilians, as well as massive changes to leave quests, introducing Grand Company leave quests, which awarded the new currency Grand Company seals.
Nice.
And ladies and gentleros, as of patch 118, Eorzeans could finally enjoy Instance Dungeons.
Yay!
The 4-man dungeon The Thousand Maws of Totorak, and the 8-man dungeon Zamal Darkhold. In addition to all this, the map was now populated by small settlements to add menders, vendors, and quest NPCs to the
Finally we have those outposts.
Praised. Auto attack was finally implemented as well. Actually, 118 was probably the point where the game started to become playable, as it provided some much needed adjustments to all the classes in the game. In fact, this patch is so massive I can't even list them here, so link to this patch in the description if you're interested. After the release of this patch, a sense of relief was slowly making its way through the frail and small Final Fantasy XIV community. The game was surely on the rise again. The game still had no subscription model, so the game saw a slight increase in the player base as a result, but the game was still not doing anywhere near as good as expected. Square Enix greenlights Yoshida's plan to reboot the game, and Yoshida soon meets up with the main scenario team. For 1.0, Yoshida had envisioned an end-of-the-world event, but was unsure how to initiate such a scenario. One of Heidelin's moons, Dalamud, was originally intended to be used in the future content patch or expansion.
Wait, so there was like a certain moon, a planet that we would have had for like quests, but it was like, yeah, they removed it, I think, right? But that's a nice artwork right there.
Was originally intended to be used in the future content patch or expansion. But Naoki Yoshida asked the scenario team if it was okay to bring the moon down to end 1.0, and he got the thumbs up to do so. As patch 119 was released.
That's cool.
On the game's 1-year anniversary, Dalamud, which had previously been a tiny white speck in the sky, finally changed color to a weak red. The plan is now officially
the red
in
moon.
motion. In addition to this, hey! Personal chocobos were finally introduced. During TGS in 2011, Square Enix CEO Yoichi Wada publicly apologized for the state of the game and said that the Final Fantasy brand had been greatly damaged. He continued by saying, "We'll continue with our reform work, which basically amounts to fully redoing the game, and hope to revive the Final Fantasy XIV that should have been released."
Yeah.
At the time, it was assumed that fully redoing the game just meant heavy patching, but little did they know that Eorzea was edging ever closer to the game-ending calamity.
Yeah, because issues arise.
A post on the Final Fantasy XIV homepage. He explains that they are moving forward in the updates, but that much still remains. Then he drops the bomb. The game will relaunch as version 2.0, not explaining how or what it entails, but the subscriptions were reinstated to help finance the relaunch. Meanwhile, the game would receive continuous updates. Version 2.0 did not get a definite launch date, but 2012 was used as a target year. Concept art for the relaunch and updates leading up to it was released, and slowly, hype was once again started.
Of course, because this looks nice. Like, wouldn't you be hyped if you are like interested, especially into like a certain franchise, and they're saying, hey, a new game is coming out, and then they show you like those things, like look at those cool runes with this sort of, looks like a bridge or something that's like crumbling apart. Like, you would expect here, for example, to be like a cool dungeon entrance that you can unlock, or like a raid or something. That's nice.
Starting to build. In December of 2011, patch 120 was released. Dalamud is now visibly bigger in the sky. One
Oh, that's Dalamud.
with this patch was the abolishment of 2 independent leveling systems. now being one unified level system.
But what did they do about the graphics? Because they look so bad here, now they look so good.
An obscure class in Final Fantasy XIV, the Sentinel was basically only used as a necessary subclass for Gladiator, as the Sentinel used shields to attack. Sentinel skills became Gladiator abilities, and the rest is history. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Sentinel.
In February of 2012, Square Enix announces that the server mergers will occur, and all players had 1 month to choose their new server before the merger. Failure to do this would default your character to whatever server your old server was designated to merge into. This would reduce Final Fantasy XIV servers from 18 to 10. All worlds were renamed during the merger.
Well, that's good, more players on one server then. More population.
Became Masamune, Rabanaster and Cornelia became Durandal, Melmond and Figaro became Aegis, Istory and Mysidia became Gugnir, Saronia and Lindblom became Sargetanus, Fabul and Besaid became Balmung, Trebia and Cashuan became Hyperion, Karnak, Palmetia and Bodom became Excalibur, and out of nowhere, Ragnarok was born as the first and only European server. Hello, love. And so, in March of
finally a European server, holy shit.
And this is where things really start shaping up. The job system is introduced, as well as 2 new dungeons, the Aurum Vale and Cutter's Cry.
The Aurum Vale, I think like Aurum Vale is like one of the more challenging dungeons early game. You know what's so funny, and you can see this on my channel as well. So I recently started also playing on a healer, on a scholar, and when I switched to scholar, I had like barely any gaming experience on it. I only fought against like few NPCs. I did like 1 or 2 fates on it just to practice, right? And after that, I did my first dungeon, and this was actually the Aurum Vale. This is my first time healing. It's on my channel, like you can watch it. It's actually quite interesting, because at the beginning I really suck, and then I get like good around like what is like the second boss or so, and I do like a okay rotation. It was a really interesting experience to do a blind playthrough as a healer, basically.
Shards pop up in all the city-states, making it easier to move around, and inns were implemented. At this point, Final Fantasy XIV starts to really come alive. The world seems more complex. There is more stuff to do, whether you were leveling or doing endgame content. And this is where most 1.0 fanboys, in lack of a better word, remembers the joys of the pre-A Realm Reborn Final Fantasy XIV. The game still suffered from severe latency,
where's he running to?
Issues, bad performance, still lacking early and endgame content available, and of course, the bad publicity the game.
Why would you run away from your group? They're fighting and they're dying without you.
In the midst of all this, work is being done on 2.0. The early stages of development was focused on getting all the aesthetics.
Oh, that's a mount.
They wanted the transition from 1.0 to 2.0 to be as smooth as possible.
I can't wait to see those zones. I'm so interested in
Thank you so much for watching
zones.
this episode. I hope you enjoyed. In the next episode, we'll look at the end of an era for Final Fantasy XIV and 1.0, as well as everything that happened in the time between the 1.0 shutdown to the release of 2.0. Remember to leave a like if you enjoyed this series and want more. And hey, remember to subscribe if you're new around here. Also, leave a comment letting me know what you think of this episode, and let me know what you think is the best feature they added during Yoshi-P's 1.0 patching. I'll be back in
probably the mounts, I would say, that we can now ride chocobos.
May you ever walk in the light of the crystal.
Wow, that was interesting. And yeah, the best feature that was patched, I would say, maybe the mount. But also like the dungeons. I think it's good that they started adding dungeons and stuff. Because I really love doing dungeons in Final Fantasy XIV. I think they are so fun, and I'm very happy and glad that we have so many. The only downside of having so much PvE content in dungeons that PvP kind of like gets forgotten, but it's okay. I'm happy now with playing purely PvE. I used to play like a mix of PvE and PvP. Now I'm more of a PvE player because there's just so many options. It's crazy fun, and yeah, it's actually insane that this game used to be like this. Especially did I see it now, because I'm a very new player. I started about like a month ago playing Final Fantasy XIV for the first time, and I only know the Final Fantasy of today that we are all playing and loving, and that is like so much fun and so much enjoyment to play. Like, I didn't know it was like that, and now watching this documentary, this just shocks me to see how Final Fantasy XIV used to be. Like, it's unbelievable, guys. Like, I see this and I'm like, am I dreaming? Is this like a nightmare? What's like happening? But Yoshi-P, like, this job must have been the toughest job ever. Like, imagine having like a big mess. You have to replace everything, recreate the game from scratch with like a new engine as well. You need to fix the graphics because it looked very pixelated, like, I'm gonna be honest, very laggy, combat felt clunky. And now we have like such smooth combat, such high graphics and stuff. Even the character models, like the gear, the glamour looks so much better now. Like, a lot got like really pushed to a very high height, right? And now this game is really rocking and cool, and it's insane to see how it used to be. Like, I can't wait to check out another episode of this documentary. I will quickly check how many more we have of this. Like, I'm quickly going to the playlist and see. If I'm not mistaken, this has like 6, if not even 7 episodes, right? Like, I'm actually surprised. Oh shit. Hold up. Are you kidding me? This whole documentary has 11 episodes, and we're just at episode 4. Holy shit, how much did change in this game? Like, that's insane, right? But then again, we have so many features now that I didn't see here yet, so... Wow, 11 more episodes. I guess maybe once a week I will check out one or so. That's insane. That's a lot of future content, so guys, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Because I want to check out some more of those, of the series of the fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV, and I'm wondering why World of Warcraft cannot do this too. Why don't we get a WoW Reborn? That would be nice. Because WoW really needs that, in my opinion, right now. Especially with like the situation going on and everything, and how unsatisfied players are. And I'm so curious about the future of Final Fantasy XIV, and also for Endwalker. I'm really looking forward to Endwalker. I'm soon going to pre-order it, because I haven't pre-ordered it yet, but I plan to do it this month, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to leave a like if you liked this video. This will really help out with the YouTube algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. And I will see you guys next time.